Just bear with us. We'll get through it. I want to thank each and every one of you for your prayers over the past 13 weeks. And looking out at this morning, we've been Connie and Cameron and I've been coming in on Sunday morning and recording the messages. And it's so nice to have somebody to preach to. Empty pews don't respond at all. But hopefully we can continue this for a while. I was asked this morning, and I will just be point blank and honest with you. I was asked, what happens if Virginia starts to increase in case numbers again? We don't know. We'll address that. The deacons and I will address that at that time and make some decisions at that time on that. But until you hear otherwise from us, we will continue Sunday morning, Wednesday night services. And then hopefully within a month or so, we can start back adding the other activities back in. It just depends on what happens with the number of cases and what we get out of the CDC and the governor's office. So just bear with us. But you notice there are no hymnals in the pews. That was one of the recommendations, that we don't have any cards, any hymnals, Bibles in the pews. So in your bulletin, you have printouts of the hymns. You will also notice, and this is not something that I like, but it's something we're going to do temporarily. You'll also have the words to the hymns on the screen behind you. So you'll have a choice. You can read it off the page, or you can read it off the screen, whichever makes you happy. But we're going to try to accommodate people as best we can under the circumstances of prayer. Let's pray. Father, we just come before you this morning, thanking you, Lord, for this day, this long-awaited day, a day when we can gather as your church, as a body of believers, lift our voices in song to you, hear your word proclaimed, and just enjoy the fellowship of each other. It's been a long, long time. I thank you for each one that has ventured out this morning. We pray for those that are not here. We just pray that you be with each of them. Guard and protect them. Guard and protect us. And help us to understand that you are in control. And we do, Lord, every day need to count our blessings because you have given us great things. Thank you, Lord, for being with us. We just pray that you find honor in this service and find us to be worthy of being called children of God. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Sometimes it's hard finding thankfulness. With all the struggles, divisions, the anger often hidden deep within us. Too often life begins to drain the joy, distress, destroy the deafening noise, shuts out the voice of God. We walk our road, we wander our path, setting the tone, watching our steps right and left, every breath spent, longing for the next big thing. But what if we could give thanks in the little things, the small victories, the tiniest dreams that seem to feed our soul? The moments where the promise of God to never leave or move on, to care and to love becomes undeniable. Finding gratitude in the everyday. This is where thankfulness begins.
me ask you this morning, do you ever feel unappreciated? You feel like you've gone out of your way to do something nice for somebody, and they look at you and either ignore it or they downplay it. An elderly gentleman was standing at the post office counter, a younger man was standing at the counter at the post office, and an elderly gentleman walks up to him one day, and he looks at the young man and he says, "Sir," he says, "could you address this postcard for me?" And the young man says, "Well, sure, I'll be glad to." So he takes his pen out and he starts, the old man tells him what to write. He writes it out, and they get that done. And the young man says, "Is there anything else I can do for you?" He says, "Well, could you just add a little note?" And he dictates the note, and the young man writes it all out, and everything's going well. And then finally they get through with that, and the young man says, "Okay, is there anything else I can do?" He says, "Yeah, could you just have one thing at the bottom?" The young man just beaming. He says, "Certainly, what can I do for you?" He says, "Could you write, please excuse the sloppy handwriting?" You ever felt been in a situation like that before? You offer your help, but it's met with contempt. And folks, I'm going to tell you, you're not alone. Jesus felt that way too. He had people constantly that came to him and never expressed thanks. We had our scripture passage. Now I want to read that again because that's important to what we're going to look at this morning. So in Luke chapter 17, beginning in verse 11, "And it came to pass, as he went to Jerusalem, that he passed through the midst of Samaria and Galilee. And as he entered into a certain village, there met him 10 men that were lepers, which stood afar off. And they lifted up their voices and said, 'Jesus, Master, have mercy on us.' And when he saw them, he said unto them, 'Go shew yourselves unto the priest.' And it came to pass that as they went, they were cleansed. And one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back and with a loud voice glorified God, and fell down on his face and his feet, giving him thanks. And he was a Samaritan. And Jesus answering said, 'Were there not 10 cleansed? But where are the 9? There are not found that return to give glory to God, save the stranger.' And he said unto him, 'Arise, go thy way. Thy faith hath made thee whole.'" So get this picture. Jesus is traveling with his disciples. And as they travel down the road, they are approached by 10 lepers. Now, I don't know what you know about leprosy, but it is a highly contagious disease. Highly contagious. And even to be seen in the presence of these people, let alone in public, was dangerous. And these men approached Jesus, expecting and hoping that Jesus would perform a miracle, that he would heal them. They acted in faith, and they took Jesus at his word, and as a result, they were healed. All 10. 9 of those who were healed did not return. And you know why? The Bible doesn't tell us, does it? See, even today, even the church today, there are a lot of people who have experienced the blessing and forgiveness of Christ, and they never showed their gratitude. They never expressed their gratitude to God for the blessings that they have received. Our biggest problem in the church today is this vast majority of Sunday morning Christians who claim to know the Master's voice and experience the Master's cure, but they never return to thank him by their presence, by their prayer, by their testimony, by their support of his church. And in fact, our entire Christian life should be one big thank you. Amen. It should be a living expression of our gratitude to God for the goodness He has shown us. But what do? We take Him for granted. And what we take for granted, and it's not just Christian, but everybody, what we take for granted, we never take seriously. Now, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand when I ask this question, but have you ever forgotten to give thanks? I know I have. When was the last time that you gave of yourself to another person, and instead of receiving thanks, you got indifference? At a food bank one summer, in the inner city, a woman came to the food bank for help. The volunteer went and picked out a big bag of food for the lady. And she had a big smile on her face, and she walks up to her, and she sets it on the counter, and she says, "This is for you." When she gave it to her, the lady takes the bag, looks down in it, looks back up with a sneer on her face, and says, "I hate beans." Then she proceeded to go through the bag and pick apart everything in the bag. Y'all ever experienced that, Mary?
Many times.
Many times, yeah. This young lady that had gone to the trouble of getting all this stuff together for her was distraught. And she apologized profusely for what she had given her. You're giving her a bag of groceries and you're apologizing for what you're giving her? Let's be serious here. See, gifts are only received with thanks when they're recognized as a gift. Perhaps these lepers felt that somehow they had earned the healing that Jesus gave them. And with all they'd been through, with all they had suffered, they deserved to be healed. How many people in our world today feel like that? I have gone to church, I have said my prayers, I have done my service, and I deserve the blessing that God gives me in my life. Friends, I'm going to tell you something. You deserve nothing except to be cast into the lake of fire and burned for eternity in hell. Amen. But we think we're owed something. We're owed nothing. What we have is a gift from God, and we need to thank Him every single day for that gift. Amen. Some people are appreciative by nature, but there are way too many out there that are not. And in these later people, who especially needs God's power to express thanksgiving, we need to remember that every good gift comes from God. And that He is completely the source, the support, and the end of all things. The very breath in our mouths is a free gift of God. Thankfulness is the opposite of selfishness. The selfish person says, I deserve what comes to me. Other people need or have a duty or responsibility to make me happy. Does that sound like anything that's going on in this world today? But the mature Christian realizes that life itself is a gift of God. Amen. And that the blessings of life come only from His bountiful hand. See, understand this. Every single one of us are like the lepers who were once hopeless. We could not earn our salvation or win God's favor through any amount of good works. We all deserve death. But what do we get? We are given the gift of eternal life. Amen. Do you remember the story of the sinful woman in Luke 7? Jesus summed up that parable by saying, look at Luke 7:47. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which were many, are forgiven. For she loved much. But to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little. Friends, a lack of gratitude shows that we really don't understand our need for salvation. And we don't understand the lengths that God went through and to in order for us to be saved. How many of you would sacrifice your only son for the salvation of this world? But God did. Perhaps these men were grateful, but they simply chose not to return and express their gratitude. That's possible. They were so excited. Maybe they thought, I'll make sure the next time I see Jesus, I'll thank him. I'm sure that these men had people that they wanted to see. They had things that they wanted to do right now, that they were healed. They wanted to thank Jesus. They just wanted to do it later. Have you ever been like that? Someone shows you an act of kindness, and you think to yourself, I need to write them a note of thanks. And then, what happens is you forget. See, it's easy to put off giving thanks. It's really easy. It's too easy. In Vermont, an old farmer was sitting on the porch with his wife. And after a life together, he was starting to realize just how much she meant to him. You know, some of us men are really slow learners, ladies. Give us time. It was about time, he decided, because they had been together for 42 years. And she had been such a help. And she had been a willing worker beside him. And as they sat together, he looked over at her and he said, Wife, you've been such a wonderful woman that there are times I can hardly keep myself from telling you how much I care about you. I can hardly keep myself. God, I really love you, but I don't express that very well, so I'm not going to say it to you to your face. I'll just think it. Maybe you'll understand. Tell each other you love each other. Thank each other for what they do. You can learn to give thanks even if you don't feel particularly thankful. If God gives a command, and understand this, commands are not suggestions. It's not the 10 suggestions, it's the 10 commandments. He expects obedience, whether you're going to move forward or not. Thankfulness, like forgiveness, is an emotion. Thankfulness is an intelligent response to the gratitude of God. Giving thanks is not just something you do in response to a gift, or when you remember God's mercy. But for Christians, thankfulness should be and must be a lifestyle. Perhaps the lepers didn't return to thank Jesus because they had forgotten how to be thankful. They had lived their life of unthankfulness for far, far too long. After all, what reason does a leper have for giving thanks? They are in misery every day. Sometimes we can become like those lepers. When we see only tragedies in life, and not the triumphs, then our hearts turn cold. As Christians, we are told to give thanks. When? At all times. And for all things. We got a bad habit in this country. We get to November, and we get to Thanksgiving, and we think, oh, this is our day to give thanks. Folks, every day is a day to give thanks. Look with me at Colossians 3:15 through 17. And let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to the which also ye are called into one body, and be ye thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord. And whatever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by Him. I'm going to tell you something. Newsflash. Today is a day of Thanksgiving. Maybe you're here today and you have a long list of things to be thankful for. Maybe you're here today and you've been going through a difficult time recently and are having a very hard time doing things. And after the last 13 weeks, I think all of us can say we've had a hard time. But whatever the case, we as Christians are called to live a life of thanksgiving. Not just to express it orally, but to live that life. Let me put this into perspective for you. If someone came up to me and handed me a dish full of sand and said, there are iron minerals in that sand. And I take my finger and I start stirring that sand. How much iron minerals do you think I'm going to find in that sand? None. Because they're smaller than my eye can see. But if I take a magnet and I run it through that sand and I pull that magnet out, what have I got on the magnet? Iron. Even though I can't see it, it's there. The magnet draws it out. The unthankful heart, like my finger in the sand, discovers no mercies. But let the thankful heart sweep through the day, and the magnet finds the iron. So it will find in every hour, the grateful heart, the thankful heart, will find some heavenly blessing. See, understand something. It's not iron in the sand. What we get from God is pure gold. The one leper recognized that what had happened to him was a gift he had not earned. He understood how bad his disease really was. And I'm not talking about the leprosy. And how great the gift of healing that Jesus had given. And he remembered and he returned to give thanks. And he returned to worship. How about you? Which leper are you? Are you one of the 9 that went your way with the intention of giving thanks later? Or are you the one that returned and fell at his feet and thanked him right then? Today is a day we set aside as a time to give thanks in this church. Every good and perfect gift, as I said earlier, comes from God. Remember today that you have so many reasons to be thankful. And I'm going to ask you today to return to the feet of Jesus and offer him that thanks. And may we daily live a life of thanksgiving in front of every single person we meet. Now, I want to do something a little unusual this morning. Because, friends, after the past 13 weeks with the COVID virus, the last couple of weeks with the riots, and I'm not going to stand up here and I'm not going to preach on social injustice or anything. My job as the preacher is to preach the gospel. Not to make social commentary or be political. I'm not going to do that. But we need to return thanks to God for what he's given. And, I am so thankful for a wife and son that through the last 13 weeks have been by my side in this church every single time something came up and I needed help. They were here to help. I am thankful for the deacons that normally we meet once a month. We have met almost every single week through this. They have provided guidance and support and helped me through some very difficult times. I'm thankful for the members that contribute on a regular basis to support the ministries of this church and keep our head above water. I'm thankful for Brother Sonny. He stayed right on top of the finances. Everything is done exactly as it should be. Nothing fell behind. We are in as good shape today as we were before this started. I'm thankful for the words of encouragement I received from so many of you over the course of these 13 weeks. The phone calls, the times I got to sit on your porch and talk with you. Helen and I had a great conversation one day, didn't we, Helen? Woo-hoo! There's my Bible open. But, going in and sitting and just standing and talking to Gloria. And talking to Sandy and Sarah over in the driveway. Meeting over in Shenandoah with Pinky. Matt and Whitney, seeing them in different places, coming to the house. Matt out here practicing his archery. It lifted me up, and I thank you. Brother Dennis has been there for me daily. Appreciate you, brother. Amen. But our work is just beginning. And our work today is to express our thanks to God. If there's anything that you would like to be thankful for this morning, I'm going to open it up for just a minute. If there's someone or something that you need to be thankful for, you've got an opportunity here to voice it. This is a service of thanksgiving. Thank God for what He's done. Thank others for what they have done. So, if you've got something you would like to say, just stand up and voice it. I have no problem with that at all. So we're going to take just a few minutes to do that before we go into our invitation. So, it's up. The floor is yours. Let's have a word. Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much, Lord. We thank you for allowing us this time to come back together, to share with each other, to express to you our thanks for the blessings you've given us. Father, we just pray that as things move forward, that your will would just be supreme in the lives of your children. And if we could be a beacon of a lighthouse on how to proceed in these troubled ways. Lord, I just pray if there's anyone here that needs to rededicate or recommit to you, that they would do so. That they would take the opportunity to turn their life completely and totally over to you. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for allowing us to be here together. Thank you,